Chapter 21. Harper. Cole and Evelyn are bickering. My hands and face are frozen after being out in the cold for most of the afternoon. But overhearing an argument about what to serve the royal guests convinces me to slip up the steps. When I move to check the window, it's closed. But down in the courtyard, Wren and Grey are locked in tense conversation. I think His Highness will not like it. Well, that was patently obvious. I sigh and draw the curtains closed, then move to drop on the side of the bed. I rub my hands against my thighs, trying to warm them. The bulky hand stitching of the doeskin riding pants catches on my knuckles. I wonder how it's possible I've only been here a day and a half. That moment in the stables when here felt real and home felt like a dream has grown stronger, like a bizarre kind of vertigo. Or maybe it's the reverse. Maybe this all still feels like a dream and I'm not panicking because I'm just waiting to wake up. I pinch myself. This isn't a dream. I close my eyes and hug my arms to my body, thinking of my mother. When I was little, she would tell me that we all have a spark inside of us, and our sparks can find each other no matter where we are. It gave me a lot of comfort when I was young. It's giving me a lot of comfort now. I never asked her what would happen to her spark if she dies. When she dies. I have to press a hand to my chest and hold my breath. No, I need to breathe. I gulp for oxygen and try to sob without making any noise. But then it passes. I can breathe. I can survive. I don't know how long Mom can. A season is 3 months. I pull the phone out of my pocket. The battery tells me there's 6% left. I go to the photo album again. Mom, Jake, Noah, me, repeat. The phone flashes a warning. 5% power remaining. It's meaningless, really. What does that mean? 5 minutes? 10? 1? My face itches as I swipe at my cheeks, surprised when my fingertips come away wet. I remember once reading an article about the psychology of crosswalks, how adding a countdown makes it less stressful for drivers because they know how long they have to wait at a light. There was something about knowing how long you have to suffer that was better than just waiting. The article was right. It makes me think of Ren too. The the indeterminate length of this curse. It seems it's some kind of miracle it hasn't broken him. I keep swiping through pictures. 4%. I swipe to Jake's messages. Nothing has changed. They're all there. I read as far as the chat history will load for his messages with Noah and Mom, but it's not far. The screen rolls back about 12 hours, and then I get the spinning wheel. With Mom, I can imagine her voice. With Noah, I'm just curious. But the messages don't give much context. His mentions working a night shift, but that could be anything. For the first time, I click on messages from Lawrence. If he doesn't have it, take care of it. I will. No excuses. I know. You will, or we will take it up with your sister. I'll do it. My heart turns to ice. I'll do it. I don't want to guess. I don't need to guess. I know what they've tried to get him to do. No, Jake, I whisper. My gentle brother. The timer counted down. He wasn't out. We'll take it up with your sister. If he made it out, I wouldn't have been there. He would have been frantic trying to find me. If he didn't make it out. I press an arm against my abdomen, using my other hand to cover my face. I can't stop the tears now. My shoulders shake fiercely. I'm sobbing openly. The phone vibrates, powering down. No, I scream. I jam my finger on the button. The screen dies anyways. The bedroom door swings open. Gray stands in the doorway, his eyes seeking a threat. My lady? I gasp and press the phone to my chest. My heart is beating so fast I almost can't breathe. My hands are shaking to where I can barely keep a grip on the phone. I don't even know why. It's nothing now. A brick of glass and plastic and circuitry. My lady, Gray's voice is very quiet and in front of me. He's dropped to one knee. What has happened? It died. Your device? I can hear the confusion in his voice. But they do not work. I know. I sniffed hard. I know, but there were pictures. My mother, my brother, it's all I had. I don't know if he understands, but he says, should I call for... No, I almost choke on my tears. I can't stand the thought of facing Ren's arrogant composure when I'm dissolving into despair. Please. He's quiet for a moment, during which my tears sound very loud. You have a way to see your world, he finally says. No, maybe, sort of. I drag a sleeve across my eyes. Not anymore. Just pictures, but it died. I don't know if they're okay. They don't know if I'm okay. Your brother, your mother. My brother was in trouble before you took me. I was his lookout, and my mom is sick. She could be dead. Ren appears in the doorway. I watch as he registers our relative positions. Great, like I need this right now. I glare up at him. Go away. You're the cause of all of this. Gray stands, turns. My lord, a word? I would hope more than one. Gray steps through the doorway, closing the door behind him. I sit on the edge of the bed and listen to myself breathe. I set down the useless phone. I count to 10, to 20. By 50, my brain starts working again. By 100, I'm angry. I glance at the strip of window between the curtains. The sky has gone from piercing blue to red-streaked clouds. Sunset. I stand and walk to the door, throw it wide. Ren and Gray stand in the hallway. This time Ren's eyes are full of empathy. Manufactured, I'm sure. He straightens and comes to stand in front of me. My lady, I did not. I draw back my hand and slap him as hard as I can. He doesn't see it coming. It throws his head to the side. I don't wait for a reaction. I duck back into the room and slam the door in his face, and then I turn the lock. Chapter 22. Ren. No woman has ever dared slap me across the face. My jaw stings like a burn that needs a salve. I want to break down this door and challenge her, but I keep seeing her tear-streaked cheeks, the ragged emotion in her eyes. Even now, if I listen closely, I can hear her crying on the other side of the door. Her mother is dying. Her brother is in trouble. I feel like such a fool. The innkeeper appears at the base of the staircase. Your Highness, he says hesitantly. Is all well? Yes, I say, my words clipped. Leave us. I do not look away from the door. They will gossip about whatever they heard, but I will not feed that mill with a reddened cheek. The man offers a bow and moves away. To my right, Gray stands motionless. I cannot look at him either. I have never felt so powerless. I reach out and try the door handle, but she has locked it. She must hear me try, because she shouts go away. I have no idea how to solve this. Gray unbuckles a pouch on his belt and withdraws his deck of cards. Without a word, he holds them out. His intention is clear. I'm more likely to get this door to play with me, Gray. You could ask. I sigh, then reach out and take the deck. Go. I nod toward the staircase. Join them for dinner. See if you can learn anything new about Karis Lauren. He obeys, leaving me with the pressing quiet of the hallway. Silence will solve nothing. I raise a hand and knock softly. She does not respond. I flatten my hand against the wood and move closer. Gray's presence downstairs will prevent eavesdroppers, but I keep my voice low anyway. My lady? Nothing. There is no trellis outside your window, I say. Please tell me you are not climbing the chimney. Go away, Ren. She speaks from right on the other side of the door. My heart kicks to find her so close. I wish to speak with you, I say. You don't get something just because you want it. Most people learn that by the time they're 6. Not most princes, clearly. I keep my voice light, hoping she will open the door. She does not. I sigh, turn the cards over in my fingers. I don't suppose you would like to play a game of King's Ransom. She's quiet for some time. When she finally speaks, her voice is low and sorrowful against the door. Do you have any idea what you've done to me? She sniffs, which makes me think she is crying again. To my family? No, I say, I don't. Silence again, but this has a weighted quality. My mother has cancer, she finally says. She's dying. The doctors gave her 6 months to live 9 months ago. Her lungs are full of tumors. She says every day is a gift, but really every day is torture. She can barely breathe. My brother and I are the only ones to take care of her. Harper feels this torture. I can hear it in every syllable. She sniffs again. When we were younger, we did all right. But then she got sick. We ran out of money. My dad got involved with some bad people who loaned him money. And I don't know how he ever thought we'd pay it back. But then he ran off, and my brother he's doing terrible things to try to repay. Her voice breaks. If I were there, I could help him. I could be with my mother. I could be with my brother. They need me. Can you understand that? That they need me? Can you? I press my forehead against the door. Her pain reaches me through the wood, tightening my own chest and dredging memories of my family. Yes, I can. No, her voice is fear, her rage pure. You can't. I can, I say softly. How? Because I need you. Silence again. It seems to stretch on forever. until I think she has given up on me and moved away from the door. I speak anyway. When the curse began, I say, I thought undoing it would be simple. I hesitate. A familiar shame has crawled around my throat and gripped tight. But then the creature destroyed my family. I swallow. It's so much easier to think of my monster as something separate, something I have a chance at stopping. I'd been so cavalier, and it ripped them apart without thought. I had no chance. I can't bring them back. I can't undo any of it. My breathing has gone shallow. I have no memory of their deaths, only the memory of their bodies dismembered and scattered about the great hall. The way I found them when I returned to myself, an hour before the season reset. The way I found myself, covered in their blood, and then the season began again, and it was all gone. All of it. The castle returns to the first day, but aside from me and Gray, the dead stay dead. I have long since locked away any emotion over my own destruction, but warmth collects in my throat, thickening my words. By the end of the second season, the creature turned on my people. By the third, my lady, please. Please know I meant you no harm. I meant your family no harm. I've tried everything I can think of to break this curse. I have tried to destroy myself. I would undo it if I could, I promise you. Silence again. I have nothing left to offer her, nothing more than this truth. The lock turns and the door swings open. We're face to face, her cheeks are reddened and her eyes are damp. My own tears don't feel far off. She studies me. I never know when to trust you. Everything always sounds so calculated. I jerked back, stung, until you said all that. And then, because fate seems content to surprise me this season, she steps forward, presses her face against my chest, and wraps her arm around my waist. I'm so startled that I can't move. She could draw my weapons and stab me, and I would be less shocked. I'm so sorry about your family, she says. I am sorry about yours, my lady. My voice sounds hollow, even to me. I stand frozen, unsure what to do with my arms. She looks up at me. I'm not sure what she finds in my face, but she takes a step back. Her expression is some mixture of amused and perplexed. What's wrong with you? Hasn't anyone ever given you a hug? I feel so off balance. Not in recent memory. I believe that too. She glances down at my hand. You really do have cards. I do. She pushes loose hair behind her ear. We can play. Come on. We take seats by the fire. The cards flip between my fingers, and I shuffle. I am glad for a task to occupy my hands. I have no idea how to move forward. I deal quickly, then lay the remaining cards on the table, turning one face up. I have two princes, which means I can steal her kings. But I never waste them early. Normally, I would watch her movements, trying to determine what cards she holds. But my mind is trapped in the moment when her arms were wrapped around my waist. Silently, she lays a card on the pile. Beside us, the fire snaps. I play a 5 of stones. She plays a 5 of swords. We play in silence, drawing cards when necessary. I fall into the rhythm of the game. Lilith made a comment about how this inn was lacking. But I like the intimacy of this room, the warmth of this fire, the familiarity of a game, the newness of my opponent. The castle was cold, empty. This inn, this moment is not. Eventually, Harper draws and her eyebrows go up, just a little. She moves the card to the leftmost part of her hand and draws another, adding to the right side of her hand, until she finds one to add to the pile. I play a prince card. Her eyes shoot to mine. She pulls the leftmost card free and hands me her king of swords. I literally just got that. I know. She considers that, then lays down a 10 of stones. Her tone is contemplative and quiet. I don't think I can keep hating you. Such sweet words of affection, my lady. I play a 10 of hearts. You honor me. Her expression turns ruefully amused, but she quickly sobers. I kept thinking about all those women you kidnapped, how it made you seem like this arrogant, entitled jerk, and I didn't realize you were only doing what you had to do. I add a card to the pile. My father once said we are all dealt a hand at birth. A good hand can ultimately lose, just as a poor hand can win. But we must all play the cards fate deals. The choices we face may not be the choices we want, but they are choices nonetheless. She says nothing, simply adding another card to the pile herself. Gray has grown skilled at finding girls who have no family, no one to miss them. I pause and look at her. Often there is no trickery to it. They come willingly, and with little more than the promise of a safe place to sleep. You, I suspect, would not have been lured so easily. Her eyes are hard. No. Why did you attack him? He had a girl. I thought he was some psycho murderer. I tried to stop him. Of course she did. So your choice led you here. Don't try to pin this on me. I am not. I am saying that no matter how much I try to plan a means to end this curse, fate keeps dealing new cards. Her expression goes still. Again, we play in silence for the longest time. I watch her draw another king. She's more savvy this time, but she's slower to add it to her hand. I play my other prince. Stop it, she says. I take the card she offers. Stop being obvious. She draws until she has a card to play. I have a question for you about all those other girls. Did you ever come close? I sigh. Sometimes victory seemed very close, other times miles away. May I make an observation? My hand goes still on the next card. For certain. She looks across at me. You just said victory. You didn't say love. I'm not sure I have a response to that. My initial reaction is to ask why that matters. My second reaction is to wonder why I ever thought it wouldn't. Harper is not done. Have you ever felt anything for any of these girls? I lay down a two of swords and try not to think about how badly I want to push the hair back from her face again. I do not feel nothing, I pause, but failure seems such a certainty that I have learned to guard myself from disappointment. She plays another card and lapses into silence again. From the kitchen below us, I hear ringing laughter from the innkeeper. It makes me wistful. I cannot remember the last time I sat at a crowded table sharing stories and laughter. Then Harper says, Do you really have no way to contact this enchantress who cursed you? No. I play a card, and I would not even if I could. Not even to help me get home? I go still. I look at Harper. She does not know what she asks. The Lady Lilith does nothing without cost. I have nothing to offer, do you? Her mouth opens, and I add, You have seen my chambers on the third floor. Regardless of what you think of me, I would ask you to consider carefully what you're asking. She pales a little. Her voice is strong. I will do whatever it takes to get home. If I have to face some sorceress, I'll do it. That makes me smile, but is grim. Spoken like the princess of DC. She she blushes and looks back at the cards in her hand, but then she looks up at me. I'm not kidding, Ren. Do you have any way to contact her? No. I pause, weighing how much to say. I imagine brazen Harper facing the capricious Lilith, even if Lilith would return her to her home in any scenario I can fathom seems fraught with peril. She shows herself from time to time, but her appearances are unpredictable. Would you ask her? When I say nothing, Harper adds, or would you keep me prisoner? My jaw is tight. You do not know what you are asking. She is vicious, cruel. But she will show up. She will. I have no doubt. Excuse me. You could tell her I want to go home. You could tell her I want something from her. She has sworn not to interfere with my attempts to break the curse. She may refuse. Harper swallows. But those are your attempts. When she speaks, her voice isn't fully certain. If you promise to get me a meeting with Lady Lilith, I can promise to try to break the curse for you. I sigh. She bargains like she plays cards. Her emotions are fully on display. I do not hesitate because I desire something from you. I hesitate because I am loath to sacrifice another person to her power. I have nothing to offer either, Ren, but this also means I have nothing to lose. Nothing to lose? Your brother, your mother. She looks away again. There must be something you want. Yes, there is much I want, but nothing so much that I would bargain for an audience with Lilith to get it. She is bad enough when she shows herself on her own accord. I open my mouth to refuse, but then I consider the Queen of Shallow. I consider my plan. I consider my conversation with Gray. I look at Harper and play my next card. As a matter of fact, there it is. As a matter of fact, there is. I will be right back. Chapter 23. Harper. We formed a truce, sort of. Even this conversation about the sorceress who cursed him doesn't feel like bargaining. There are no stakes, no veiled risk, not like when Dad tried to negotiate for more money or time. It's leaving me off balance because I was ready to fight with Ren for what I want. And there's no fight in the man sitting across the table from me. Then again, he just said there is something he wants. I hold my cards close to my lap. I told you I'd try to break the curse if you can make a meeting happen. An empty promise if your intent is to bargain for passage home. He shrugs and lays down the Queen of Swords, and unnecessary, but that's not what I want. I raise an eyebrow. Come on. Do not misunderstand. I would give anything to break the curse, but I do know bargaining for love will end in disappointment. Fine. I add a Queen of Stones to the slowly growing stack. Then what do you want? I would like for you to be Princess Harper, first daughter to the King of DC. I would like to spread word of Emberfall's alliance with your people, especially your father's promise to send an army to drive Karis Lauren out of my lands. Each word hits me like a bullet. I expect him to crack a smile and say, just kidding, but he delivers that with all the same gravity as everything else he says. I stare at him. You what? Do you truly need me to repeat it? No, but maybe I do. What? If I can convince my people and Karis Lauren that Emberfall is not defenseless, that future conflicts may arise, I may be able to convince her army to leave. He gives a slight shrug. We may have to negotiate for trade or possibly yield access to our harbor, but from what I have seen, our closed borders have led to suffering, so that may not be a poor outcome. I might need to remind him I'm not actually a princess. I barely understand what he's talking about, but it's not a perfect plan, admittedly. He plays another card casually, like we're discussing the weather. But if we were to visit the biggest cities and make a declaration of our engagement... Whoa, wait. He offers a rueful smile. Forgive me, a declaration of our alliance... Like that one word is what tripped me up. So you're saying you want to keep this going. I made that up to get those guys to leave the inn. I can't stop a whole army. His eyes narrow just a fraction. Are you certain, my lady? You've surprised me before. That makes me blush. But there's no army on our side. What if they don't believe us? Then we have lost nothing. I feel like we've fallen into the Twilight Zone, and considering the last couple of days, that's saying something. You want me to pretend to be a princess. I don't know anything about Emberfall or royalty or such is your charm, he says. He must see my expression because he adds, truly, my people have never heard of DC. That means your customs, your mannerisms, your version of royalty. None of it is subject to question. They haven't heard of DC because it doesn't exist, I hiss. My father always warned that it does not take an army to defeat an army. He spoke of insurrection within Emberfall. But the same can apply to the army of Sill Hollow. If they believe they are outmanned, they may retreat to await further orders rather than walk into a trap. I can't stop staring at him. Do you have any idea what you're saying right now? He hesitates and sits back. You are right. His tone is resigned. This is foolhardy. I have gotten ahead of myself, and you have your own troubles. There is no reason to risk yourself for mine. No, I'm not. I stop and rub my free hand over my face. This conversation has turned around too quickly. Piled on top of my worry about Jake, this is all a bit much to process. My lady, he says quietly. Slowly, I lower my hand and look at him. This is not a bargain, he says. You ask me for a meeting with the Enchantress. I ask you to risk your life for my people. Neither option guarantees your safety, or even a path home. As always, I have nothing to offer you. I can promise to intercede with Lilith on your behalf, but that is not worth what I am asking of you. His voice is so earnest, like when he spoke in the hallway. These words feel like truth, like we've moved past pretense and I'm finally seeing the real Ren. Maybe it's because he stopped talking about being cursed by something and he started talking about doing something. This was my father's kingdom, he says. This is now my kingdom. I may not be able to save myself, but I may be able to save my people. I think about what he said earlier, how the choices we get may not be the choices we want, but they're still choices. I have a choice here. I can say no to this. Climbing down the trellis was risky, but this is insane. There's no way it'll work. Pretending to be a princess for 3 minutes doesn't mean I can do it again. But what are my options? To say no? What will that mean for the people downstairs? What will that mean for me? My mother never backed down from the men who came to our door. She never left my father's side, not even when she should have. She did it for me and for Jake and for our father too, in a way. I swallow. Okay. I pause. I'll do it. My lady, he looks as shocked as he did when I hugged him. It's almost comical. I'll help you save your country and you'll help me get home. Deal? I put out a hand. He extends a hand and I clasp it with mine. His palm is warm. His grip is stronger than I'd expect. Deal. His hand holds mine like he doesn't want to let go. If he keeps looking at me like this, I'm going to start blushing. It's time to let go, I say. My stupid voice is breathy. He lets go and sits back. Play your next card. Yes, good. The game, right. I have 7 cards, he has 6. 2 of which I know are kings. I have a king in my hand from when he originally dealt, but if I don't find another, he'll win. I lay down a 4 of stones and on the discard pile. What do we do now? He plays a 4 of swords. I think you should accept Freya's offer. Freya's what? She offered to serve as lady in waiting, did she not? I believe you should accept. I will have Commander Grey seal off the problematic rooms in the castle. I have spoken with him about recreating a royal guard, so we may travel among the people and make our presence known. I was stuck on wondering what a lady in waiting even does, but his last comment throws me. You've already talked to Grey about this? His eyes met mine. Of course. I play a 10 of swords. How did you know I'd say yes? I did not. He tosses a 10 of stones into the pile. I can't decide if he's infuriating or amazing, but you just started making plans anyway. He looks at me like I'm deliberately being obtuse. My lady, I began joining my father on matters of state when I was 10 years old. I had my own advisors by the time I was 16. I may not be able to find a path out of this curse, but I was raised to rule this kingdom. Something about that is fascinating, but also a little sad. When I was 10, Mom was throwing my blankets on the floor to wake me up from school. For school. Mom, my throat thickens and I have to clear it. I add a 6 of stones to the pile. When I was 10, I could barely organize a bowl of cereal. He adds a card to the pile. Surely your courage and tenacity more than made up for it. I frown at that. I already said yes. You can save all the pretty words. He draws back. You believe me insecure? Do you think I would have asked this of just anyone? I study him through. I don't know. I assure you I would not. He glances meaningfully at my cards. He's so matter-of-fact that his voice leaves no room for argument. I quickly pull a card down, then fidget with the ones I have remaining. Do you think the cerebral palsy will be an issue? Do you believe it will be an issue, my lady? Don't do that. Don't turn it back on me. He plays another card. While your weakness may be a disadvantage in some ways, it has an advantage in others. One I think you could use to your benefit. That's a pretty frank assessment. I'm not sure I'm mind. How? It is easy to underestimate you. He pauses, his gaze never leaving mine. I know I did. I believe Grey did too. I'm blushing again. I sift through my remaining cards and draw. Why do you want Freya to be my lady in waiting? Because I believe she will be loyal, and we need people we can trust. He waits for me to lay down a card, then matches it with one of his own. He only has 3 cards left. Silvermoon Harbor is the closest major city. They once had a winter marketplace that drew merchants from all over Emberfall. We will ask the innkeeper if the market still stands. If so, that should be our first outing. What does Grey think of all this? He believes it is a plan fraught with unnecessary risk, but I have no better ideas. He gives a humorless laugh. If Silvermoon Harbor is as densely populated as it once was, he will certainly have his work cut out for him. Well, that's super reassuring. I stop deliberating and lay down a 4 of hearts. I have no idea what suit he's got in his hand, but no matter what I play, I figure I've got a 75% chance of forcing him to draw. So what's our next move? We go downstairs, we join them for dinner, we discuss Karis Lauren and share a bit of our intent. I wet my lips. And what if Lady Lilith shows up tomorrow and agrees to take me home? Then you return home, my lady, he pauses, and I will say you were called back to DC to make arrangements to lead your father's army. He really does think of everything. Do you seriously believe this will work? In matters of the heart, I am clearly hopeless. He puts down his final card, a prince, a wild card. I stare at him, stunned. It didn't matter what I played, he would have won anyways. In matters of strategy, he finishes. I am not. Chapter 24. Ren. Darkness has fallen, and along with it, a husband, quiet. I'm doing great. Darkness has fallen, and along with it, a hushed quiet has overtaken the inn. Freya has put her children to bed, and Evelyn is tidying the kitchen. Harper is curled into the chair by the hearth. A stein of tea is balanced in her hands. Her eyes are tired, but there's a certain beauty to her expression. Maybe it's the way the firelight paints silver in her hair, or makes her eyes gleam. Or maybe it's the fact that some of her exhaustion was earned on behalf of defending my people. She finally trusts me, and just as clearly wants nothing to do with me. Gray's outside, she says quietly. Did you order him out there? No, I say. He worries they may attempt to take the inn during the night. I trust his judgment. She glances at the door and hunches down in the chair. I study her. Are you frightened? A little. You should be more worried about Lady Lilith. Gray can do nothing to stop her. I haven't done anything to her. I don't have a part in this curse. I just want to go home. I want to beg her to reconsider. She knows not what she asks, but she is too suspicious of my motives. I worry that warnings will sound like a trap to keep her here, and I much prefer this path of trust we found. You must be worried too, Harper says. You brought your arrows down here. My bow sits at my feet, not worried, prepared. They will not be able to take Gray by surprise. He knows how to keep himself hidden. She does not look reassured. He's one man. Do not underestimate him, my lady. You didn't mention something in all your plotting. My eyes narrow. What is that? The monster. My eyes shy from hers. My people have nothing to fear from the creature now. It will not reappear until later in the season. Cole approaches from the kitchen, his voice low. Your Highness, will you need anything else this evening? I begin to decline, then change my mind. Innkeeper, I was wondering if the princess and I could bring you into our confidence. Harper's eyes do not leave the fire, but I know she is listening. She is so perfect for this role. The man looks stunned. Yes, Your Highness, anything. Your discretion would be required. He puts a hand to his chest and lowers his voice. Of course. I lean in a bit. What you have heard is correct. The royal family has fled Emberfall. The innkeeper's eyes grow round, and I continue. Years ago, after the monster attacked the castle and destroyed most of the guardsmen, the king of DC offered sanctuary, which we gratefully accepted. We are currently in the midst of negotiations so we can finally rid Emberfall of this terrible creature. I pause and glance around conspiratorially. We believe the monster is under the control of Karis Lauren. Rumor says she has the ability to wield a dark magic, something that prevented our guardsmen from defeating the creature. Harper takes a sip from her mug. I watch her absorb every word. Goodness, says Cole. We had no idea. In truth, I say I was unaware the Queen of Shallow had begun to advance her forces into Emberfall. When we learned that the monster had abandoned Iron Rose to return to its home with Karis Lauren, the princess and I came to assess whether the castle could support a neighboring force. We have decided to remain until DC's army is ready to move. I am certain you see many travelers. Would you be willing to spread the word that the castle would need to be restaffed? I have silver to pay. Beneath his beard, the innkeeper paled. Yes, Your Highness. He pauses. Please, I feel I should beg your pardon for my harsh words last night. No need, I say. I prefer honest discourse. I would ask that you always speak true. Yes, of course. Wind whistles through the shutters. I wonder if it has begun to snow again. Before you retire, another 2 mugs of tea, if you please. He gives a short bow and moves away. Harper is staring at me. You're too good at this. We shall see. It is good for people to have a common enemy. It breeds unity, and we will need plenty of that. You might be scarier than Gray. I nearly smiled, but then consider that a time will come, and soon, when I truly will be more frightening than my guard commander. You should rest. The room is yours if you want it. There will be much to accomplish tomorrow. I expect her to refuse, but she grimaces and uncurls from the chair. All this writing is beginning to catch up with me. I stand. Would you like assistance? She gives me a look. I've got it. For a brief moment, she hesitates, and something like sadness flickers across her face. Before I can parcel it out, she says, "Good night, Ren." There are so many things I want to say to her. Earlier this evening, when I asked Freya to serve as her lady-in-waiting, the young woman nearly got to her knees to kiss Harper's hands again. After what Harper has promised to do, I have the same urge. I do not. I give her a nod. Good night, my lady. I sink back into the warm stones of the hearth. Another whip of wind cracks against the shutters, and I nearly jump. When Cole returns with the tea, he is surprised to find Harper gone. Shall I take one up to the princess? He says, no need. I say, the second is for Commander Gray. The night air slices into me when I step outside. Any temperate warmth from the afternoon has bled from the sky, leaving frozen snow underfoot and bitter wind to sneak under my cloak. I do not want to make a target of Gray or myself, so I carry no lantern. The darkness is absolute. When I told Harper that Gray knows how to keep himself hidden, I meant it, and he is proving it now. I look out at the dark stretch of snow, and I'm glad of the bow strapped to my back. A shadow shifts at the corner of the inn. My lord, he sounds surprised, or maybe concerned. All is well, I say. Gray stops in front of me, barely more than a shadow. I hold out a hot tea. He hesitates, then reaches for the handle. Steam curls into the air between us. His eyes are dark and inscrutable, and his expression is impossible to read. Drink it, I say. You must be half frozen. You've been out here for hours. He takes a sip, and there is a part of me that wonders if he's doing it only because I ordered him to. The cold is no hardship, he says, taking another longer sip while looking out at the night. I wrap my hands around my own sting. I had intended to discuss the night's events with him, but I find the cold, silent darkness somewhat intoxicating, peaceful. We stand quietly for the longest time until he says, "May I be of service, my lord?" No. Overhead, the stars stretch on forever. When I was a child, my nurse told me a story of how the dead become stars in the sky. At the time, I found it frightening. I remember worrying that they would fall to earth one day and we'd be surrounded by dead bodies. Now I find it shameful to think that my father and mother could be looking down, watching my failure season after season. Was it always like this, I ask? Like this? I glance at him, standing guard. He seems surprised by the question, but he takes no time to consider. No, I was never alone. The nights were never this silent. There's a note in his voice that takes me a moment to identify. You still miss them. I counted many as friends. I mourned their loss. He glances at me. As you mourn your family. Yes, as I mourn my family. Gray and I never discussed the time before. It's laden with too many wrongs on both our parts. But maybe the knowledge that this is our final season has loosened something in him. The way it has changed something in me. Who would have stood guard with you, I ask. Anyone, he says. We changed frequently. A pause. As you know. In truth, I never really paid attention to the operations of the Royal Guard. They were good at being hidden in more than one way. Or maybe I was good at not noticing what was right in front of me. Who would have been the best? Marco. He says it without hesitation, which must mean Gray knew him well. I barely remember Marco. My brain conjures an image of a sandy-haired guardsman. He was one of the few who survived the first attack by the creature, but not the second. The only guardsman to survive the second attack is standing in front of me. Why? Gray looks at the sky as if searching for an answer. You could find no one better to fight at your back. Terrible at cards, but he always had a good story. Never fell asleep on duty. Fell asleep on duty? I stared at him, surprised. Did that happen? He hesitates, and I can read in his silence that he's worried he said too much. But he must realize it makes no difference. Sometimes that is why the cold is no hardship. Nothing calls for sleep like a warm night and a full stomach. Fascinating. Did you ever fall asleep on duty? Even if he had, I don't expect him to admit it. But I should know better. Gray is nothing if not honest. Once, he says, my first summer. Commander, my voice fills with mock admonishment. I should have you flogged. The king would have, he says, and he's not teasing. If I'd been caught. He pauses and glances over me. But not you, I do not think. With that one comment, my good nature sours. He's right on both counts. I frown at my mug and say nothing. I've angered you, he says. Forgive me. No, I say, you haven't. Or perhaps he has, I'm not sure. I was cruel in other ways, Gray. He says nothing, which makes me think he agrees. When he speaks again, his voice is contemplative. You were never cruel. I made you ride a full day without food or water, then forced you to fight. Wind whips between us, beating at my cloak. As if the weather itself seeks to chastise me. For sport, for my own pride. You could have died. For entertainment. That is cruelty. He is quiet for a long moment, then frowns and looks at me. Are you speaking of the Duke of Aronson's man-at-arms when we fought at Liberty Falls? Yes. You did not force me. He sounds puzzled, almost incredulous. I ordered you. I make a disgusted sound. That is no different. You asked if I could defeat him. I said yes. He pauses. There was no order. My anger rises. Do not split hairs with me, Commander. I ordered you to prove it. You think I would make such claim without being ready to prove it? Regardless of the outcome, I know what my intent was. To prove the superiority of your royal guard. To prove your pride was not without merit. The first edge of anger sharpens his tone too. Do you not think my intent would be the same? I take a step closer to him, but he does not back down. I challenged you in front of a crowded room, in front of your opponent. Yes, he snaps, his word pointed. The crown prince challenged me out of the royal guard, and I succeeded. Before the king and queen and most of the nobility, your cruelty surely lacks for boundaries, my lord. Enough. He goes still, but it's not too dark that I can't see the anger in his eyes. 20 minutes ago, I told Colt that I prefer honest discourse, and now I long to order Gray to shut his mouth and return to his duties. At the same time, it is oddly satisfying to argue. After season upon season of cajoling women and listening to Gray's quiet difference, it feels good to push, and to have someone push back. I was not referring solely to that one incident. My voice is tight. If you wish to analyze every perceived slight, he says, by all means proceed. But if you intend to convince the Queen of Syl Shallow that we have her forces outnumbered, now seems poor time to become mirrored in uncertainty. I have nothing to say to that. The weight of my failures is too heavy. Allow me to remind you of another moment, he says, when I believe your memories may differ from mine. I do not look at him. Go ahead. I am referring to the first season, he says, when your creature first terrorized the castle. When I slaughtered my family. My voice turns rough. I remember it well. There were few of us left, he says, so many lives lost, especially the royal family. Silver hell, Gray, I remember. What's your point? He's quiet for a moment. We thought it would break you. He pauses. It did not. You took action to protect the kingdom. Your first order was to seal the borders. You sent word to each city to govern from within. I do not understand how he can speak of my failures as if they are victories. It was all I could do. You asked why I keep my oath. In that moment, I never meant it more. I do not deserve your loyalty, Gray. Deserved or not, you have it. I have nothing to say to that. The air seems to wait for my response, but nothing I come up with is sufficient. Gray takes a step back, sets his empty stein in the snow. We have been here for some time. I should walk the property. I nod, as you say. When he moves away, I think of one of the first things he said. I was never alone. The nights were never this silent. Commander, I say. He stops and turns, waiting for an order. I have none to give. Wait. I set my own mug in the snow. I'll walk with you. Chapter 25. Harper. We survive the night without incident, but Wren calls for me early. Now that he has a plan in mind, he's a man on a mission. With a promise to send a wagon back to the inn for Freya and her children, Wren and Gray have the horses saddled and waiting before I even finish lacing my boots. By the time we're on horseback, the sky stretches blue and cold overhead, with just enough wind to nip at my cheeks as we canter through the snow. We fly across the open ground, Gray galloping from hill to act as lookout. By the time we reach the final crest, I'm relieved that Gray calls for us to stop, until I see that he's concerned. A man waits at the tree line, my lord. He appears to be alone. I look past him. There's a man with a large wagon and 2 draft horses, but they're too far to see much detail. Good, says Wren. I asked him to wait for us there. He is a porter and will have need of his wagon. Gray frowns. You know this man? You do as well. You gave him your bag of coins, he glances at me. If I recall correctly, you damaged his cargo. The one-armed man with all the crates. When did you ask him to wait for us? After your lecture on whether I know how to do something nice. When Wren rode off and left Gray to escort me to the inn. But why? Wren's expression is piercing. I asked him to wait so he can distribute the castle's endless food among the people. I'm sure he'll assist with fetching Freya as well if I request it. I open my mouth, close it. Wren doesn't wait for a response. He wheels his horse and canters down the hill. We learn the man's name is Jameson. His shocked bewilderment from yesterday is gone, and he seems pleased just to have a service to offer. His horses look better fed than he does, and I like that he threw a blanket over their backs while he was waiting. Wren gives him the same story he gave Cole, how the enchanted castle was cursed by the wicked queen of Sill Hollow, then asks the man to keep his confidence. When we finally ride through the woods, Wren and I lead, followed by Jameson's wagon and Gray behind. We're walking now, so I look over at Wren and keep my voice low. You keep asking people to keep this a secret. I think Cole and Evelyn really will, but you just met this guy. How do you know he won't tell everyone about this? My lady, he glances over, looking genuinely startled. I am counting on them telling everyone. I feel like I've missed something important. So, wait, again, I must ask, have you no sense of how gossip works? You're making it seem like a big secret so they will tell people? Of course, he looks at me like this shouldn't be a surprise. Do you truly think I would reveal genuine secrets in such a cavalier way? I clamp my mouth shut. No, I don't. Everything he does is calculated. I should have figured this was no different. Are you ever reckless? I ask. I was, he says once. Then we step out of the snow into the cursed warmth and dappled sunlight. Jameson works hard. We've been carrying food out of the castle's front hall for the past hour. And even one-handed, he makes quick work of loading everything into trunks and stacking his wagon. He was a little awestruck by the warmth in the air and copious food, to say nothing of the music ringing through the castle. It's sad that I've only been here for a few days and I'm already over it. Jameson seems more shocked that Wren and Gray work alongside him, bringing up food from the kitchens once the hall tables have been emptied. I'm a little shocked that Wren is helping too. I'm not sure why, because I can't see him lounging on a silk chase either. He just doesn't strike me as the roll-up-your-sleeves type, but he did exactly that. He's long since ditched the weapons and armor and his buckled jacket, and once packing turned into loading, he turned back the sleeves of his shirt. Seeing him in the sun with bare forearms and sweat on his brow makes my eyes want to linger. I lock my eyes on the trunk in my hands and tell my brain to knock it off. There's probably something calculated about all this too. He probably hopes Jameson will spread word about what a swell guy he is. Wren sees me approaching and he turns to take the trunk. I've got it, I say, but my voice is too quick. I might be blushing. He steps back and extends a hand, giving way. My lady. I heave the crate onto the back of the wagon, where Jameson waits to drag it into place. Wren watches me the whole time. My blush goes nowhere. Jameson grabs hold of the trunk. Your Highness, if I may ask. Wren finally looks away. You may. Do you fear providing enchanted food to your people? I fear not feeding them more. My heart flutters, just the tiniest bit. I have to remind myself that he does nothing without intention, and that all of this is part of the plan. A means to an end. A good end. That will help his people. But a calculated effect nonetheless. He's playing a role, just like I am. Jameson nods. Yes, Your Highness. He drags the trunk onto the wagon and deftly stacks it atop the others. Gray emerges from the castle with another trunk and tosses it onto the back of the wagon as well, springing up to stack it himself. The only weapon he set aside is his sword. I believe this is the last of it for now. Jameson straightens and gives him a nod. Commander, you have my thanks. Don't worry, says Ren. Commander Gray likes to feel necessary. Gray pushes sweat-dampened hair off his forehead and says, Commander Gray is going to regret saying that. Okay. Maybe it's the shared purpose, but they seem different today. Less something. I can't quite put my finger on it. The men jump off the back of the wagon, and Jameson latches it closed. I will return with Lady Freya by sundown, Your Highness. Good, says Ren. Thank you, I add. Jameson gives me a short bow. Yes, my lady, of course. He turns to Gray and offers a sharp salute. Commander. Then he turns away to head for the front of his wagon. Wait, says Gray. Jameson turns. Yes? You saluted me. Gray frowns, seeming disappointed. You were not in the Royal Guard. The King's Army, until I lost my arm defending Wilmington last year. Jameson looks abashed. Forgive me, old habits die hard. What was your rank? Lieutenant. Can you still hold a sword? I can do more than hold one. Gray nods. When you return at sundown, come find me. Yes, sir. Jameson hesitates, then says, Why? Because I have a need for a lieutenant. The man starts to laugh, but Gray's expression hasn't changed, and he quickly sobers. Yes, sir. He offers another salute, then climbs onto his wagon and urges his horses forward. Once he's out of earshot, Ren says, Commander, that man is missing an arm. Duly noted. Gray picks up his sword from his belt. Picks up his sword belt from the marble steps and buckles it into place. What's Wilmington, I say? One of the northern border cities. Grace glances at Ren. If he lost an arm defending the city, he may have information on Karis Lawrence's army. I considered that. Ren is staring at him. But I am not sure that qualifies him to act as your lieutenant. I did not offer him the position. I simply made it known. You asked me to assemble a passable contingent of guards. Yes, passable. If a missing arm would keep him out of the army, it would certainly keep him out of the Royal Guard. He is experienced. Gray pauses. That carries weight with me. I would like to offer him the opportunity to try. It is essential that we appear united and strong. Hire him, I say. Ren snaps his head around. What did you say? I said hire him. I swallow but refuse to look away from him. Or give him a fair trial at least. I don't care if he has one arm. I trust Gray's judgment, just like you said you do. He sighs and turns to look at me. My lady, please, you do not know. Don't patronize me, I say. Is this an alliance or not? That draws him up short. He studies me, then inhales to speak. I take a step closer. Am I a princess or not? His eyes narrow. I practically see the wheels turning in that strategic little head of his. I turn to look at Gray before my nerves can get the best of me. If you think Jameson is suitable, test him. If he passes, hire him. That is my order, Commander. I wait for his eyes to flick to Ren, for him to wait for an order from his prince. He doesn't. His eyes never leave mine. Yes, milady. I turn and stalk up the marble steps into the castle. Adrenaline chases through my veins at a rapid clip, and I'm worried I'm going to collapse into giggles or hysterics or have a full-on nervous breakdown. I hurry along as quickly as I can, heading for the staircase that will lead to my room. Arabella's room. Whatever. A hand catches my arm and turns me around. Ren. His touch is gentle but firm. He all but pins me against the banister. And his expression is a combination of irritation and amusement. What are you doing? I feel a little breathless again. Going to my room. I need to change out of these clothes. His eyes search mine. Are you playing with me? I'm not sure how sweaty, day-old clothes could be a game. I move to slip away from him. He puts a hand on a railing, trapping me there. Do you think me inflexible, my lady? It's not a question I was expecting, and his closeness combined with all this adrenaline has my heart pounding. Why? Because I sense that you feel every move you make must be an act of aggression. If you truly had an army at your disposal, I would be worried. His voice is light, almost soft, but the words carry weight. I study him. I don't know what you mean. You act as if you must take before I can give. Ren shakes his head slightly. You do not. You need not countermand me with gray. He looks almost disappointed. As with yesterday, when you secreted the food, you need not hide your motives. If there is something you want, I still don't understand. My lady Harper, princess, he says pointedly. How is it you are not understanding? Understanding what? Ren puts his hands on my arms. Even through my sweater, I feel his strength. Goosebumps spring up along my skin. He leans in a bit. Whether the curse breaks or not, you are willing to help my people. I am the crown prince of Amberfall. If there is something within my power to give you, all you must do is ask. I stare up at him, my lips part, but no sound comes out. He lets me go. Forgive me. I am denying you your rest. I still don't know what to say. While I am standing there trying to figure it out, he moves away, strides across the grand foyer, and heads into the sunlight.